YouTube Ozick going the Goat House is back. Going over my number one prospect at each position for the 2024 NFL Draft at this early stage. So my initial thoughts, we have the whole draft process, the pre-draft process to get through, evaluating tape, a lot of tape to get to. We have those all-star games like the Senior Bowl coming up. We have the Combine, Pro Days, all of that. So things could change. We'll have you covered along the way, have you covered for free agency content, starting to roll out with that, coaching content, playoff content. We got you. Like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. A lot of updates there. Sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop, code GOAT. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. Start a quarterback, and it's a tough one, obviously. A lot of people have Caleb Williams, the USC quarterback. I, at this moment, have Drake May. Now, this is different than last year. CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. Now, my goal isn't to pat myself on the back, what I'm about to say. There's a point, but since day one, even before this time last year, I had CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. And I did not hesitate. Like, it was clear cut. I had CJ Stroud. It was clear to me. There was not a time while watching either player where like, oh, maybe this guy's closer. Maybe. No, there was none of that. But that didn't mean I thought they were super far off in talent just because I thought it was a clear evaluation. They ended up looking like that in year one, but that's besides the point. But my point is this class, the top two this year are different. It's not CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. It is actually a 1A, 1B situation, and that could change with a lot more time, this whole pre-draft process. I can make arguments for, that's a good way to put it. I didn't have an argument for Bryce Young as quarterback one last year. It was just CJ Stroud. I was firm with it for a long time. This year, at this early stage, I can make arguments for both Drake May and Caleb Williams. A lot of people have Caleb Williams one. Definitely understandable. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That playmaking ability. He has the arm strength, the arm talent, obviously, but the ability to escape pressure and make plays last, keep him alive, things like that kind of fits today's era. So that's what everyone loves about him. Understandable. Maybe some Patrick Mahomes vibes with how he escapes pressure but makes that throw instead of just taking off and running. I do like that about him. It's not like, oh, I better run and actually run. Like, you want to be a pass-first guy, and that's what he is. And it's eye-popping talent. And you talk about, like, which players in the NFL have the most eye-popping talent. Probably Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I mean, these are the best players in the NFL. So that obviously means something. He's been very productive, very efficient as well. Drake May has also been very good. And the difference between the two, I guess the difference between the two, like, mainly, Drake May has that prototypical size, 6'4", good frame, strong arm. Caleb Williams is listed as 6'1". I was told not to be surprised if he comes in at 5'11". He could be 6 feet tall. And you look at those quarterbacks in the NFL, and, Baker's playing pretty good right now, around 6 foot, 6'1", in that range, but those quarterbacks typically haven't been the very best in the NFL. It doesn't mean it's going to continue. Caleb Williams is a little different than those guys, obviously, but maybe we'll see what he measures in at. That's a little bit of a flaw. Caleb Williams also, when he hasn't played the best defenses, when he has played them, he struggled a little bit. I mean, Notre Dame had one of the top defenses in college football, but really struggled. But so he hasn't had too many opportunities. I think he'll be much better in the NFL. He'll have some turnovers. He'll play hero ball here and there. Sometimes, maybe stay in the pocket a little bit longer, wants to escape a little too soon, but that's not too big of an issue. Drake May, I mean, prototypical size, strong arm, big playability. When he's, there's no uncomfortable with him. Some quarterbacks in the NFL and college, they get pressure and they're uncomfortable. They have to make a throw where it's not perfect. Things aren't perfect. He is really good in those situations when he absolutely has to throw quickly or off his back foot. You don't love when quarterbacks are off their back foot, but he looks, and Caleb Williams, some similarities there as well. I see a lot of upside in the NFL. Like, Caleb Williams is like, kind of the question is, will he be able to do some of the same things in the NFL? Sure, but it's kind of the question. Drake May, I see more in the NFL, fitting more offenses. Again, more teams because of his size, but because I think he can fit any type of system. Some NFL teams are like, we're going to have to get more out of Caleb Williams. We're going to have to, like, play to his strengths a little bit more. I think you put Drake May in any type of those systems there. I thought he had a better year than maybe the stats would show, and Drake May, that is, and the stats showed pretty well. I see people knocking him, or at the time knocking for the Virginia game, losing that game, and yes, you would like him to find a way, but if you actually watched every snap of that game, He actually played pretty well. The stats won't show it. The receivers let him down. Again, these are things that in receivers could let you down in the NFL too, and I want quarterbacks to find ways. But these were types of plays or types of moments where I think it'd be a lot better in an NFL team, NFL program. He'll play hero ball at times too. Kind of reminds me of Josh Allen a little bit, where try to force one or throw one up, or you didn't need to throw it up there. I mean, Caleb Williams do some similar stuff, but one of my favorite things about him is the way he moves in the pocket, climbs the pocket. The footwork is beautiful. Some similarities actually to CJ Stroud in that regard, where he'll actually beat pressure with his footwork. He won't run away, which these guys can run away if they have to, but he'll maneuver, buy himself a little extra time, give him that clear window to throw. So that is like the one, I don't want to compare the two, but that is like the one spot where it's actually pretty damn similar. That at the time, this time last year, that was one of my favorite things about CJ Stroud too. So I think May has a ton of upside in the NFL system. Again, both Williams, May, Williams has more of the eye-popping moments, so that could put him at number one. I think they're both going to be great. They're both elite prospects. I think right away, don't be alarmed if they're throwing to the wrong team a little bit. I think they're going to be, it's one thing you start to worry a little bit if they're just only throwing to the other team, like the touchdown interception ratio. There's no big plays and he has a lot of interceptions. That you can be a little alarmed about. But I think there's going to be big plays, big production. They go out and win games, but they'll also have some hero ball turnovers into both of them. But a lot of upside with both these guys, and it's a pretty damn good class at the top. Running back is, well, we didn't have the USC quarterback. I actually have the USC running back right now, Marshawn Lloyd, which I don't know if anybody out there really has a firm running back one right now. Everyone's like, yeah, there's Blake Corum from Michigan, who's a stud. There's Jonathan Brooks from Texas. He is coming off that injury from the TCU game. I mean, Braylon Allen is probably the closest thing to Derrick Henry like that we're going to see. He's not Derrick Henry. Trey Benson's a stud, almost got RB1. Jace McClellan, I think, is underrated at Bama running back. There's a list of guys. I mean, there's more than that probably, but that we'll talk about. But it's probably the most intriguing running back class because all those guys are pretty even. There's no giant flaw that stands out for any of those guys. None of them are like elite. Who were the Saquon Barkley's, towards the top, or Bijan Robinson, I guess last year. They don't have those elite traits really, but they're all pretty, maybe some of them, a guy like Blake Corum, does he have the long speed, but they're all pretty fast. They're all quick. They all hit the hole. They all make people miss. They can catch the ball. You wish all of them probably would catch the ball a little bit more. Maybe their teams threw the ball to them a little bit more. They're all in the same boat. Like every year, it's usually like this running back. All right, he sees the hole better than these guys, so he's the better one. Or this guy's too slow. They're all pretty much in the same boat. This is pretty early. There's a lot of running backs again in the same boat that we have to go through it. This could change for me, but I really like Marshawn Lloyd from USC, former South Carolina running back too, top recruit. USC obviously was a pass-first team with Caleb Williams. Lloyd was very effective. There's times where it's like, okay, they could have ran the ball more, and they actually might have been more effective. I also wish they threw him the ball more because when they did throw him the ball, it looked pretty good. Seen some plays downfield, looked like a natural, in terms of getting open, catching the ball after the catch. I just love his yards after catch ability, making people miss. The vision's there, finding the open lanes. An electrifying player at times. What does he go, like 5'9", 210 around there? He's a little on the short side. It's not that big of a deal. He does want to bounce some runs outside, but it's not too much. Like it's not too over the top. Like every run wants to be bounced outside. Just kind of a feeling I got about him, but I really considered some of the other backs, Benson, Brooks, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, these guys towards the top. So a lot of solid ones out there. I think people may be sleeping on Lloyd a little bit. He's very solid, very solid. I think a lot of upside. He'll get more action, I think, in the NFL than from that Lincoln Riley USC, playing against Pac-12 defense, type of offense here. So I actually like Lloyd a lot. So still to be determined, really, as we go through these running backs. Running backs are pretty easy to evaluate. So we'll find the right one in the end. This is kind of my initial thoughts. A lot to go through here. No surprises at receiver. Got to go Marvin Harrison Jr., but the class is absolutely loaded. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the complete package, though. Mainly an outside receiver. We've seen him line up on the inside, get separation there. Wouldn't put it past him to be used at both. But mainly an outside receiver. Smart, get separation. The hands are ridiculous. The ball, everything. Like, is there something he's lacking? I don't think so. Like, does he have, like, elite top-end speed? No, but he's fast. There's really nothing he's lacking here. He's the sure thing. Like, if he ends up being a bust, it might be one of the most surprising things of all time. That's really where we're at with him. But, man, there's some other receivers that would be receiver one in a lot of classes. Rome Odunze, who's an outside receiver from Washington, but a do-it-all type of guy. Good contested catcher. Malik Neighbors, who is inside-outside, versatile, evenly plays both. Really good after the catch. So if a team's looking for we like all these guys, but we want that guy that's going to get a little bit more from, different alignments for us, that's the guy. The other LSU receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., who spent most of his time outside receiver. And there's other solid guys too. Keon Coleman had a lot of buzz early in the year, outside receiver, physical, absolute freak of a dude. Adonai Mitchell, another outside, big body, long guy, used to play for Georgia, plays for Texas. I mean, these guys are really solid. Xavier Leggett's probably your after-the-catch guy from South Carolina. A couple other Washington receivers that are pretty good. It's a loaded class, and I'm probably forgetting to name someone, but this was pretty clear-cut. Even though the other guy, Neighbors, Odunze, they might be elite prospects when it's all said and done. Love those guys, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is the real deal, one of the safer prospects that I can remember. Absolutely no surprise at tight end. Brock Bowers, we've been waiting for him to get in the draft for a long time. He's been on everyone's radar for a long time. Has received comparisons for a long time to George Kittle, and there's a reason for that. He has a similar play style, just physical, tough, after the catch, like maniac style, like machine. But just a do-it-all guy, just an absolute threat, a guy you have to account for every single play. Sometimes tight ends, like the ones that are hyped up a ton, maybe could be a little underwhelming, or the guys that are hyped up, maybe last year, Michael Mayer was the guy that was, Bowers is different. He's definitely different. Mayer was the guy that was hyped up like a top 10 pick, and all of a sudden he's going in the second round. I think as we got closer to the actual draft, it's like, all right, he might go late first, but then he ends up going second round. So sometimes that happens with tight ends. I don't expect that to happen here. Just a different, just different, completely different than any tight ends we've seen as prospects. We compare him to George Kittle, but as a prospect, there's a lot more there, and he's going to be a higher grade. So it was a sure thing there. Tackle is really not a sure thing. We're going to go with Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt, who, there's quite a few guys. Fashanu. It's probably the battle there for the top two. But there's a list of guys that can go anywhere from the mid-first to mid-second. So a pretty good class. But I think a total package guy. I think the combination of quickness, the quickness in the footwork, but strength, power as well. In high school, he played a lot of tight end and defensive end. And you kind of knew because of his blocking ability in college. And Notre Dame's known for the tight ends and their offensive linemen. So they know talent there. They know what they're doing. They know how to develop them as well, but they move him to tackle and right off the bat, like he is insane. Like you know it right away. This is a sure thing, top 10 pick. So he actually has a lot of upside, but it's just, you always hear about those players. Like they were once this position and that position. They're just born to play football, and they're just that natural athletes. And then, once somebody knows how to develop, gets them in the right spot. Notre Dame, good example there. Who knows their tackles and knows their tight ends. They knew that was a spot for him. So I see a lot of upside. I also see really good play right away. I think a little bit safer compared to the other. Safer, but more upside. That's why for me, it's not too much of a hesitation right now, because safer, plug-and-play guy, but he has the upside compared to the other guys as well. So I like Joe Alt for the tackle, but it's going to depend on blocking scheme. And we're going to have to watch a lot of tape on the other guys, because I remember last year was a big one. We watched guys that did not play in the scheme, but I figured out that I would like them better. Broderick Jones, probably the biggest one, like watching him and like figuring out what schemes they would fit. So every team's going to be different on which tackle and other positions too, but I think tackle is a big one. So A lot of evaluating to do there for all these positions. Interior offensive line, so just guard, centers. Where we talk about the tackle class is really good. Interior, specifically guard, not the strongest. It's not bad. You might be able to find some good potential early starters in the second or third round. So that's pretty solid. Maybe some tackles got to move to guard. There's some guys that already are kind of on my radar for that, but I haven't heard anything about that. I guess how they measure in, things like that are pretty important. But I think the best bet for interior offensive line is a center, and it's Jackson Powers Johnson. Almost said Ben Powers Johnson. Ben Powers is a current NFL guard. But the Oregon center, again, I'm not huge on drafting a center in the first round because some of the best centers in football have been found in the third, fourth, whatever round. And it's more than this, but it's almost, can they snap the ball and can they stay in front of their guy? Like, that's what you're looking for first. It's not as difficult as blocking edge rushers that the tackles have to do. I'm not saying it at all it's an easy position because you kind of have to multitask. You have to do multiple things. But that, there's not a huge difference between usually the top guys and the guys in the fourth, fifth round, whatever. So I'm not really crazy about taking one in the first round, but if one was going to sneak in the first round and someone was worth it, it'd be the Oregon center, Powers Johnson here. And he could very well be late first, but he's going to go second round if he doesn't go first. And he's going to be a plug-and-play center. He could be Creed Humphrey, like he can be a Pro Bowl center right away. It's definitely possible. And there was more concerns about Creed Humphrey, to be honest, mainly because he was a lefty and there was no lefty centers, which was odd. So he actually might be viewed as more of a safer guy. And he had a really good, season with Oregon, and they're really good at developing offensive linemen as well. Good group, good unit. So that's who I like at the moment for interior offensive line. And maybe a little bit of a surprise based on the way people are talking right now for the interior defensive line, which is a battle, an absolute battle. But it's weird to say that because Byron Murphy II from Texas and Jer'Zhan Newton from Illinois, they're totally different type of interior defensive linemen. So that's why it's tough to compare the two completely. Yes, they're neither edge rushers, right? They're both interior guys. But again, they're different. Byron Murphy, I've seen him line, and I'll say right off the bat, he's been getting a little bit of talk. I think I put him in a first round before he was getting much talk at all, first round mock. Few mocks ago. He's starting to get a little bit more talk, but I'll say this, wherever you have him or wherever you're seeing him, he's probably too low. I'm a huge Byron Murphy fan. This guy is going to be a stud in the NFL. I've seen him line up at nose. We've seen him line up with the B gap. We've seen him line up, even three technique at times or just straight over guards. And he does it all at a very high level. He's very physical. He has that backfield production, so because he's more of like an interior guy, which I'm probably in the next level. Like I would like for him to play all those alignments that I talked about, but we're gonna see him. We're gonna see him in the A gap. We're gonna see him get some reps at nose. I think there's more true nose tackles out there. I don't think he's got a lot at Texas, but we're gonna see him in the A gap. We'll see him over guard, around that range. That's where we'll see him. For the most part, and he's a stud there. But with those guys, you want to see them have backfield production. Mazi Smith went in the first round last year. I wasn't super in love with Mazi Smith because, he plugged gaps. He could shed blocks when the ball carrier's running right by him and he make the stop. But the lack of explosiveness, the lack of backfield production. Byron Murphy has that. Very physical on the inside, throws blockers off him, gets in the backfield, has production in the passing game, getting after quarterbacks. So, big thing here, he's gonna fit anybody. He's gonna fit any defense, any coach. They're gonna love him. They're gonna use him on passing downs. They're gonna use him on running downs, and they're gonna use him again in multiple different alignments. He's a stud. I think he's gonna be really good in the NFL. I think he'll be a highly thought of run stopper and interior pass rusher. And then you look at Jer'Zhan Newton, who is a stud pass rusher from the inside. And it's eye-popping, and you want to put him here, and it still could. It's 50-50 for me, but they're two different players. Newton is a three-technique / how a 3-4 end would be used. He'll line up over the tackle or just inside with, three-technique. He's a pass rusher. He can stop the run. He has some good moments reading and stopping the run, too, but he'll get after he'll blow up the quarterback. He'll hit him. Maybe some of the hits that he had might get called in the NFL because how big of hits they are. But it's eye-popping ability and it's a passing league, so you want to take him high. But there's some teams like the 4-3 teams. The 4-3 defenses are gonna be like, this guy would be a star 3 technique for us. Such a specific position. Usually those players don't go super early, but he is a different animal. I look at Kalijah Cansey. I thought he would end up going second round. We knew he can go late first. And he did, and he was undersized. Newton's a lot better of a prospect and bigger. So he'll definitely go in the first round. But I would like for him to go to a 3-4 team and play like a 3-4 end and can slide in a little bit, really, a little bit of both type role. Would like for a team to use him like how Aaron, even though a totally different player, not going to compare him to Aaron Donald, but style, like type, I guess how they play, like where their strengths are at. I think you like to use them like how the Rams use Aaron Donald. DN, D tackle. They run a 3-4. I just think there's going to be more teams that like Byron Murphy. The teams that like both may actually have Newton ranked higher because the freaky ability, the pass rush disruptor. But I think every single team will have Byron Murphy on their board. I actually think so. So that's where I'm at with him. He's going to be a hell of a pro. He's going to be a big factor. Again, equally effective stop and run, getting after the quarterback. His get off is incredible too. That's something I forgot. His explosiveness off the ball, recognizing plays as well. I'm a big fan of Byron Murphy the second. For edge, it's a bit of a battle as well. Latu from UCLA is who I'm going to go with at the moment. Definitely want to watch more, but it's a battle for there's a top 3. Jared Verse is a big one. And then we have Dallas Turner from Alabama, and these guys been around for a bit. And a few years ago, it's like, all right, Dallas Turner. We're waiting for him. He's going to be the guy. And then last year is probably like, all right, Verse is probably going to be an elite prospect. And this year, even though Latu was good last year as well, he really took off. I'm not going to compare him to TJ Watt, but I felt like he had a TJ Watt-like impact where just the impact, like in similar, there's somewhat similar play style in there where all of a sudden they're, reading the quarterback sitting and he makes play on the ball with his hands. A lot of that, and that's really the only area where I'll compare the two. It's hard to actually compare him with TJ Watt. And I don't know if a lot of the pass, I wouldn't really, in the style of pass rush, not super similar, so it really wasn't a full-blown comparison. But the impact, like, why is TJ Watt great? People will say because he gets a lot of sacks. I think it's more than that. I think the impact plays that he makes, play recognition, the instincts, knowing when to, sit, read the quarterback, being able to drop in coverage, get his hands on the ball. So that's where I find similarities, and he just constantly made those plays. Like he was an absolute game changer, game wrecker. The pass rush moves are ridiculous. Like the different move, like the bend, the spin using his strength. There's more physical pass rushers. Not that he's really lacking in that department a whole bunch. Like Jared Verse is more physical. Jared Verse, I'm usually get off is huge. Like that's number one. You have to have explosive get off, and I would say Jared Verse has more explosive get off. And the motor is ridiculous, and the strength, the bull rush is ridiculous. He made big plays in big moments as well. I think Verse is a little stiff at times. The way he moves, the way he's trying to chase guys down, he's a little stiff, a little tight. It's a little underwhelming earlier in the year. Latu, he's explosive. Perfect world, I wish he was a little more explosive on the get off, just a little bit more, because again, Verse is a little better in that category. But man, the game changer, he makes plays all over the place, and the pass rush moves are ridiculous. Like he has some unique. And a collection of unique pass rush moves, like in different ways to get to the quarterback. Basically, I've seen him have success rushing inside as well. So it is a battle. Dallas Turner, what really stands about him is very effective stopping the run and reading the run too. So there's other pass rushers than that, but a lot to go over this offseason. But right now, I got to go at Latu. Linebacker's a little tough. Started watching him a little bit, and there's obviously nowhere near a premier talent, like nowhere near an elite talent. Last year's class was known as pretty bad. I don't think this class is going to be a ton better. It's going to be better. I'm going to go Peyton Wilson from NC State, who was a playmaker this year, like a fantastic playmaker, one of the better college football defenders. Now, is he going to have that crazy production in the NFL? I mean, you're probably not right away. The reason I'm going to go with him at linebacker 1 at the moment is I think he's the smoothest. I think he's the most fluid mover. Natural mover, I guess we'll say. Like how he flows throughout the field on different plays, run plays when the ball's outside, inside, and the pass plays, how he's sitting reading the quarterback in coverage. His range is pretty good. Pretty good wrap-up tackler. He makes plays, too. I like Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper's from Texas A&M's a tough one. His highs are like higher than Wilson. Even though Wilson was kind of the bigger name for college football this year, I think Cooper's highs, in terms of NFL level, just plays in general, are really high. I think his lows are pretty low, though. He's unique. When he gets downhill, like when downhill, making a play in the backfield, it's like, wow, Cooper. Cooper, that is. Like big-time play in the backfield, getting downhill. He's athletic. He's rangy. A&M would randomly rush him off the edge, or they would blitz him from inside. He had plenty of production on the quarterback. He had some decent moments in coverage. Sometimes he'll run past the tackler. Sometimes he puts himself in an awkward position to make a tackle. Sometimes he'll be filling the wrong gap. So it's tricky with him. There's eye-popping ability there. Trotter from Clemson seems a little old school. Like he's 10 years too late. He's very solid. Wilson's the smoothest mover in every category. That's really the difference here. So I'm going to go with him. I think there's actually, I wasn't a huge Jack Campbell guy. I know a lot of people were, specifically the Lions. I think if you like Campbell, I think you're going to love Peyton Wilson. I think he's kind of what they thought Campbell, or people thought Campbell was maybe. Good size. Pretty similar, I suppose. I think Wilson's a much better prospect, actually. And Campbell went in the first round. So I guess he's got that going for him. Cornerback, to me, is a battle between the Alabama corners, and they're both pictured right there. Terrion Arnold, who is my cornerback 1 at the moment, and Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's been on everyone's radar for a long time. I've seen a mixture. That's tough. I've seen people say Nate Wiggins from Clemson, who's a really good playmaker. He's really good when the ball's in front of him, attacking downfield, almost like free safety vibes. Like Wade comes up, attacks the ball through the air. There are some things he can work on, like his back pedal, his, technique, when to open up and run. I like the Bama corners. I've seen Wiggins listed as one from people. I've seen Cooper DeJean, who some people think those two guys are just listed. Could they? They're probably not going to be safeties, but I could see them like playing that position, just free safety specifically. And I've seen Kool-Aid McKinstry listed one. Arnold's a big name. I just don't see him talked about as corner 1. I do think, and I love cornerback. I played corner, so that's probably why I love what. And I think it's the second hardest position to play after quarterback. Maybe tackles up there, but I love watching corner, so I watched a good amount already. I watched them during the year. I like the Alabama corners. I think those are the top 2 corners, and that defense was ridiculous this year for a reason. Those are the top 2 corners. It's a little tricky because Kool-Aid McKinstry's been so good for so long, and he's very good. He's very physical, makes a play on the ball, instinctive. And it feels like Bama knows what they're talking about, but they've kind of had Kool-Aid McKinstry above Arnold for some time, even in the past. So it feels like, and they know what they're talking about, so it feels like they, feel a little bit more about him. Maybe after this year, maybe it's different, but I like Arnold. I watched the tape on him, and I watched him during the year. Super sticky in coverage. I like his technique. I like his press ability. Just super smooth. The hips, in and out of his breaks. Really good in man coverage. Just super sticky against good receivers, making a play on the ball. There's really only one flaw, and it's a kind of a specific one. I noticed when he's running with receivers, specifically down the sideline. Say the receiver's on this side of me. I like to, stay close, run with them. And when the ball's coming, you want to turn this way and be the receiver. Make a play on the ball before the receiver. He actually will turn the opposite way. He's done really good doing that, though. Like, he's actually made plays. I don't think it's ever really costed him. That's really not the proper way to do things. I think somebody can coach that up. Maybe he's given up a little more catches than some of the other guys too, but think about it. A couple things here. The biggest name out there was in that secondary, whether it was or not at the end of the year, throughout the year, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry. So teams are going to line up and they're going to go, all right, we probably don't want to throw that guy's name away because we know his name. He's big time player for a long time. So we're going to go with this guy that hasn't, started the last several. He had some snaps in the past, obviously. So he's going to get targeted more. Anybody that gets targeted more is going to give up more catches. I didn't think he gave up too many catches, anything like that. He was really good in coverage. Also, he spent time not just outside, which I think he's very good on the outside, but in the slot a ton as well. That's the thing with him. If he's not a good outside corner in the NFL, he's going to be a good slot corner in the NFL. If he's not a good slot corner, he's going to be a good outside corner. That's how I feel about that. And he was solid from the slot, and I think a lot of corners will tell you this too. And I play the position not at a super high level, obviously, but I always would rather cover a guy faster than me, bigger than me, going deep downfield than covering those shallow from the slot, like the slants or just the quick routes. Those were so difficult. So difficult. So some of those catches he gave up were those. So if you're in, it's so, how difficult, I think it's, so I'm basically what I'm getting at. I think it might be more difficult to play slot corner. And I've heard NFL corners say that as well. But think about playing both throughout a game. Witherspoon, that was a big reason people liked Witherspoon, not the biggest reason. He did it with Seattle as well. Like one play is here, one play is out there. Love that. So Arnold could do that as well. Love his technique. I think he has the athleticism, the physicality. Wasn't a massive name, for this year. Like, he was a guy. He had some reps before. But those Bama corners are good. They're really good. So Arnold, it's another guy who we talked about. We talked about maybe you should be higher. And this guy, that a big one so far this video is Byron Murphy, the second defensive lineman from Texas. Like, wherever you have him on your board, like I know you got him on your board pretty high. Everyone pretty much does at this point. Move him up. Terrion Arnold, same thing. People have him around that late first. No, we're gonna move him up. We're gonna put him a lot higher. Could be the cornerback one of this draft. If it depends on who agrees, who doesn't. What the teams, obviously, teams if they're agreeing with these statements or not. And for safety class, pretty sneaky. I love me some Cameron Kinchens. This is another guy. I mean, he's kind of the consensus safety one. There's a couple other guys. Tyler Nubin, much improved year. Like he was improved going into last year. This year, I've talked about it before too. I've heard from people that Bama and Notre Dame liked him and he decided to stay. So that's a good look for him, like what type of safety he is. Kalen Bullock from USC, really solid, but I think Kinchens is a stud. I mean, it's a free safety, and they're all free safeties, and I think Kinchens and the USC safety, I think they can play strong if you wanted them to, because they're so good underneath, like attacking underneath, and split safety scheme, they can do that as well. But Kinchens is a free safety. He's got athleticism. He's got the range in the back end. He can sit and read the quarterback. He can make a play on the ball. He's a big-time playmaker. He's a physical free safety, though, too. He will get downhill from playing deep and make a play. He wants to come up and do that. He's not just going to sit back there all day. He's not going to, there's some really good NFL free safeties that they're really good. They're some of the best at their job because they're so good in coverage and they're such a big time playmaker. But even those guys aren't really the best in terms of tackling and getting downhill. But Kinchens a free safety that will do that. I've seen him blitz from starting in the back end, 15, 20 yards downfield and make a big play. This guy wants to come up and smack anybody in the mouth. He's a stud. He's an absolute stud. Like a total package type safety. Another guy we prop. Again, everyone has him safety one, it feels like right now, but everyone has him around like 20-ish in mocks, including myself. I'm ready to move him up. I think he goes a lot earlier. It's a total package free safety. Guy that's really fun to watch. I can see him playing single high, split safety scheme, like a two-man under would be great. Two-man Saints kind of pops up. Like I think he'd be really good. Like he's probably better than what they've had. I think a big loss for them was Marcus Williams, and he has some coverage similarities, like the range playmaking ability in the back end, but he's a much better tackler, much better getting downhill if he needs to. So schemes like that, I really think he fits pretty much anything. So big fan of Kinchens. So after preparing for this video, I watched a little bit more on who we know are the top guys. I didn't watch several games yet. We have a whole process of that. Playoffs are going on right now. Free agency's coming up. So there's a lot we're taking care of. But I watched some of the top guys and guys that I'm moving up, of the first round guys. Kinchens, Terrion Arnold for sure. Byron Murphy the second for sure. These guys you're going to see higher in my mock drafts after doing this. So that's what I got so far. I talk about that running back position. That running back position is crazy. It's like usually it's kind of clear cut for me. And those guys, a lot of work to do on those guys, but luckily it's pretty easy to evaluate running backs once you watch enough. So we'll figure it out there. But that's probably the position that's up in the air most right now. Trying to think. I've seen people say tackle. I think, but maybe because it's more talked about because there's no first-round running backs. The quarterback one battle something. Because like I said, it's 1A, 1B. It's different than last year. I just had a 1 and 2 last year. Linebacker's a little interesting. Corner, there's some good ones. I like the Alabama corners at the top. Running back's the one where it's like there's a list of guys, and any of these guys can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Keep going. Some guys we probably didn't talk about. Bucky Irvin, Audric Estime. These guys are over there too. So the running back group's going to be fun, actually. Even though none are going to go in the first round. We're going to start to see them in day 2, like come off the board in some random order. It's like, okay. It's going to depend on fit, I suppose. It does for a lot of positions. But I'm excited for draft season. I'm glad we kind of got started a little earlier than we normally do. But we got the coaching videos coming out. We got the playoff videos coming out. We got I got one planned kind of for off-season free agency. Things like that. That's actually not that far away. We're going to have trades videos. We got you guys covered more than anybody. So hopefully you can join us. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Very important. Always talk with you guys. And then we have a top 100 going on there. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.